learners, hello and welcome to this session on Techniques to Nurture Creativity. I'm glad you are here today as we explore a topic that is not only fascinating but also essential for personal growth, effective learning and problem solving in today's world. In this session, we will focus on three key techniques that are widely used to enhance creativity. Number 1, brainstorming. 2, creative problem solving, also known as CPS, and the synetics model. Each of these methods provide a different pathway to unlocking creative potential. But before we move into the techniques, let us first reflect on what creativity actually means. Creativity can be defined as the ability to produce ideas, solutions, or products that are both new and valuable. It is not restricted to art, literature, or music, but extends to every domain of life: science, education, business, and even daily problem solving. For example, when a teacher finds a new way to explain a difficult concept, that is creativity. In another context, when an engineer designs a tool that saves time and resources, that too is creativity. The key point is this: creativity is not a rare gift. Research consistently shows that every individual has creative potential. Now, let us begin with the first technique, brainstorming. A widely used and practical method for generating new ideas. Brainstorming, as the name suggests, is like a storm of ideas in the brain. It's a group activity where people quickly share as many ideas as possible to solve a problem or explore a topic. The term brainstorming was first introduced by Alex F. Osborne in 1953 in his book Applied Imagination: Principles and Procedures of Creative Thinking. Osborne described brainstorming as a way for a group to come up with creative solutions by sharing ideas freely and spontaneously. His belief was simple yet powerful. Judgment blocks creativity. When people fear being criticized, they hold back their ideas. Brainstorming removes the fear by creating a safe space where ideas can be shared freely without immediate evaluation. Core principles of brainstorming. Now, how does brainstorming actually work? Osborne gave us 4 guiding principles, and each one is essential for making the process effective. First, there should be no criticism at the idea generation stage. Every thought counts. Even if an idea seems impractical, it should not be dismissed, because unusual ideas often spark creative breakthroughs. Second, brainstorming encourages unusual or bold ideas. Sometimes, the wildest suggestions lead to the most innovative solutions. For example, suggesting a library in a moving bus might sound strange at first, but such ideas can later evolve into realistic mobile learning solutions. Third, brainstorming emphasizes quantity over quality. The more ideas generated, the higher the chance of discovering excellent ones. In other words, abundance creates opportunity. Finally, participants are encouraged to build on each other's ideas. Creativity is rarely a solitary act. It grows stronger through collaboration. When one idea triggers another, solutions often become richer and more practical. Planning a brainstorming session. Let us now look at how to plan a successful brainstorming session. Step 1. State the problem clearly. Begin by presenting a fresh problem on the spot. Frame the problems as a simple, open-ended question that invites multiple possibilities. Step 2. Identify the roles of all students in the groups. Assign roles within the group. Usually, one student acts as the facilitator, recording ideas, encouraging participations, and keeping track of time. The rest of the group should collaborate respectfully and listen to one another. Step 3. Explain the guidelines. Explain the ground rules. Encourage all kinds of ideas, no matter how unusual they may seem. Remind everyone that criticism is not allowed during idea generation. Step 4. Keep the group manageable. For the best results, form groups of about 8 to 12 students. This size is large enough to generate many ideas, yet small enough to ensure that everyone has a chance to participate. Step 5. Create a relaxed environment. Provide a comfortable and distraction-free space with enough materials and workspace. A relaxed environment helps students think more freely and creatively. Step 6. Form diverse groups. Bring together students with varied backgrounds, skills, and perspectives. Diversity sparks creativity and often leads to more innovative solutions. Step 7. Rank the generated ideas and suggestions. Once brainstorming is complete, work together to prioritize the ideas. Use methods like scoring, voting, or sticky notes to narrow the list down to 3 or 5 practical and workable solutions. Step 8. Evaluate the session. Finally, review how the session went. Give constructive feedback. Thank students for their contributions and share which ideas were selected. This reinforces the importance of their participations and encourage them for future sessions. Having discussed the steps, now let's explore the various types of brainstorming techniques. Over time, different methods of brainstorming have been developed. Let us look at few common types. To begin with, there is the classic brainstorming session. This is the traditional method where a group shares ideas openly in response to a problem. All contributions are welcomed, and the primary objective is to generate as many ideas as possible without immediate evaluation. Next, we have brainwriting. Instead of speaking, participants write down their ideas and then pass them to others to build upon. This method ensures that even quiet members can contribute equally. Another method is round-robin brainstorming. In this format, each participant contributes one idea at a time, moving in a circle until everyone has had a turn. This ensures fairness and prevents domination by a few voices. In addition, some groups use mind mapping, where ideas are drawn visually around a central theme. This approach is especially effective for learners who prefer visual thinking. Finally, there is reverse brainstorming, which works by asking the opposite question. Instead of how can we solve the problem, participants ask how could we make this problem worse. By thinking in reverse, hidden causes and solutions often emerge. Advantages of brainstorming. At this point, you may be wondering, why is brainstorming so widely used? The answer lies in its advantages. Firstly, brainstorming encourages participation and collaboration. Everyone has an equal opportunity to share ideas, which builds inclusiveness. Second, it helps generate a large pool of ideas quickly. This is especially useful in classrooms, organizations, or projects where time is limited. Thirdly, it creates an atmosphere of psychological safety because criticism is avoided in the beginning. Participants feel more confident in sharing their thoughts. Finally, brainstorming can increase engagement and motivation. People feel valued when their contributions are welcomed, and this strengthens group cohesion. Challenges of brainstorming. However, like any technique, brainstorming also has its challenges. One challenge is that sometimes a few outspoken individuals dominate the session, while quieter members hesitate to speak. Another difficulty is that a large number of ideas may sometimes overshadow the quality of ideas. Without proper evaluation, the process can become overwhelming. A further limitation is that brainstorming requires skilled facilitation. Without clear guidelines, the session may lose focus and turn into casual conversation. Now that we have understood brainstorming, let us move on to our second technique. Creative problem solving, or CPS. Creative problem solving is a systematic yet imaginative approach to addressing challenges. Unlike routine methods that often lead to predictable results, CPS encourages us to look beyond the obvious. It combines analytical reasoning with creative thinking so that we can redefine problems, generate fresh ideas, and transform those ideas into workable solutions. This approach was first developed by Alex F. Osborne in the 1940s, the same pioneer who introduced brainstorming. Later, he collaborated with Sidney J. Barnes, and together they built a structured framework that has since been applied in education, business, and community development across the world. What makes CPS unique is that it is not reserved for only few creative geniuses. It is built on two simple but powerful assumptions. That is, everyone has creative potential. Creativity can be learned, practiced, and strengthened over time. Now, let us discuss about the core principles of CPS. The CPS model rests on a few guiding principles, and it is important to understand each one clearly. First, CPS balances divergent and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking means generating many possibilities without judgment, casting the net wide. Convergent thinking, on the other hand, means evaluating, refining, and selecting the best ideas. Both are equally important, and the real strength of CPS lies in using them in sequence. Second, CPS encourages us to frame problems as open-ended questions. Instead of saying, this process is inefficient, we might ask, how might we make this process more effective? That small shift opens the door to multiple possibilities rather than closing it with a fixed statement. Third, CPS emphasizes the importance of deferring judgment. Just as in brainstorming, evaluation should be postponed during the idea generation phase. When people feel safe from criticism, they are more willing to share original thoughts. Finally, CPS promotes the use of constructive language. Instead of saying no, But participants are encouraged to say yes, and this simple linguistic shifts creates collaboration rather than conflict, and it keeps the flow of ideas moving forward. Now, let us look at the 6 stages of the CPS model. The first stage is objective finding. Here, the goal is to identify the main challenge or opportunity. Participants start broadly listing various issues and then narrow down to focus on the most relevant one. The second stage is fact-finding. At this point, information is gathered. What do we already know about the issue? What is missing and what needs more exploration? This stage is about building a clear picture before rushing to solutions. The third stage is problem finding. With facts in hand, the next step is to analyze the data to identify the core problems and opportunities. Participants work to define the real challenge behind the surface symptoms, often reframing the problem in more insightful ways. The fourth stage is idea finding. Once the challenge is defined, participants generate as many potential solutions as possible. This is where creative tools like brainstorming, mind mapping, or Scamper come into play. The fifth stage is solution finding. Here, ideas are evaluated, refined, and selected. The focus shifts to feasibility, resources, and impact. Sometimes, ideas are combined or adjusted to make them stronger. Finally, the sixth stage is acceptance finding. The final phase centers around planning and implementing the chosen solution. Participants identify potential barriers, develop strategies to overcome them, and create a detailed action plan. This stage ensures that solutions are not only innovative, but also practical and sustainable. Benefits of CPS. Having understood the stages, let us now turn to the practical benefits of using CPS. First, it helps generate innovative solutions that go beyond routine thinking. Second, it improves decision making because participants explore multiple perspectives before choosing a path. Third, it enhances adaptability, an essential skill in today's rapidly changing world. Fourth, it strengthens team collaboration, since groups often work together throughout the process. Finally, it increases motivation and ownership because participants see their ideas being valued and implemented. Now that we have explored brainstorming and creative problem solving, let us now turn to our third techniques, synectics model. The word synectics comes from the Greek term synektikos, which means the joining together of different and seemingly unrelated elements. The synectics model was developed by William J.J. Gordon and later refined with George Bruins in the 1950s and 1960s. At its core, synectics is built on a powerful belief that creativity is not a rare talent reserved for a few gifted individuals. It is a universal capability. With the right techniques, anyone can learn to think creatively. Synectics provides those techniques by using analogies, metaphors, and imaginative associations to stimulate fresh ideas. Why synectics? Unlike conventional problem-solving approaches that rely mainly on logic, synectics encourages us to tap into the irrational and emotional side of thinking. This is important because creativity often emerges when we break away from our usual thought patterns. Synectics help us to do just that by making the familiar strange, challenging our assumptions about everyday things so we see them in a new ways, making the strange familiar, taking abstract or complex ideas and connecting them to something more recognizable. By shifting perspectives in this way, synectics allows individuals and groups to discover insights that traditional reasoning might overlook. Now, let us turn to the key principles of synectics. The synectics model rests on a few guiding principles. Let us look at them one by one. First, synectics emphasizes the integration of diverse elements. By deliberately bringing together unrelated ideas, we create mental tension that sparks creativity. Second, it relies heavily on metaphors and analogies. These act as bridges between what we know and what we do not yet understand. For example, if a team is designing a new classroom layout, they might compare it to a beehive buzzing with activity, yet organized. Third, the model acknowledges that the creative process is both emotional and intellectual. It encourages people to connect with problems not just rationally but also emotionally. Finally, synectics helps learners become more aware of their own creative processes. By understanding how they think and generate ideas, participants gain confidence in applying creativity to different situations. Steps in the synectics process. The synectics process is usually guided by a facilitator and unfolds through several structured steps. The first step is problem presentation. The facilitator introduces the problem or challenge. For example, how can we reduce traffic congestion in a city? Once the problem is clear, the next step is step 2, direct analogy. Participants compare the problem to something unrelated. In the traffic example, a direct analogy might be the flow of water in a river. Just as water finds channels and avoids blockages, traffic might be managed through diversion and alternate routes. Once this analogy has been explored, we move on to the next step, step 3, personal analogy. Participants imagine themselves as part of the analogy. For instance, a person might say, "I'm a drop of water rushing through the current." This encourages empathy and emotional engagement. After completing this imaginative exercise, we proceed to the next step. Step 4, compress conflict. The group identifies any internal contradictions or tensions within the analogy and explores those conflicts to extract new meanings or relationships. With these tensions uncovered, we now move forward to the 5th step. New direct analogy using insights gained from the compressed conflict. Participants create a new analogy that reinterprets the original problem in a fresh and insightful way. With this new analogy in place, we now approach to the final step, step 6, re-examination of the problem. Finally, the original problem is revisited with a new perspectives in mind. This often leads to breakthrough insights and creative solutions that were not evident before. Now that we have gone through the steps of synectics process, let us turn to its benefits, why this method is so valuable in nurturing creativity. Firstly, it enhances creative capacity by training people to think in analogies and metaphors. It expands the range of possible solutions. Secondly, it provides a deeper understanding of complex problems. When abstract issues are linked to familiar experiences, hidden patterns often emerge. Thirdly, it fosters collaborative engagement. Since the process is usually done in groups, participants share diverse viewpoints and build on one another's insights. Finally, it develops cognitive flexibility. Learners begin to see how ideas in one field can apply to entirely different contexts. For instance, insights from biology might inspire solutions in engineering or education. To summarize, the synaptics model is a dynamic and imaginative process to creativity. By joining together unrelated ideas, making the familiar strange and the strange familiar, it helps individuals and groups discover fresh perspectives. Dear learners, as we come to the end of this session, let us take a moment to reflect on what we have learned. Creativity isn't just an ability, it is a way of thinking, living, and problem solving. It helps us see possibilities where others see obstacles, turn challenges into opportunities, and bring fresh ideas into the world. We explored three major techniques: brainstorming, that is, free open idea generation; creative problem solving, CPS, a 6-step structured approach; and lastly, the synaptic model, using analogies and metaphors to create unexpected insights. Together, they teach us to think broadly, evaluate wisely, and innovate boldly. Remember, creativity is not reserved for the gifted few. It's for everyone, including you. So, the next time you face a challenge, don't just look for the obvious answer. Try brainstorming or walk through CPS or play with analogies using synaptics. You may be surprised by the solutions you discover. Thank you for joining.